Hey guys, my name's Echo Kellum. I play Curtis Hull, aka Mr. Terrific, on CW Arrow, and you're listening to Kneel Before Pod.
Kneel Before Blog presents Kneel Before Pod.
My name is Craig McKenzie, and in the year 2018 I continue to host a podcast to talk about nerdy things. To help me do this, I recruited a team to help me with my rambling. We explore the entirety of the film-TV continuum to find topics to discuss. Please don't call us losers, we prefer Kneel Before Pod. Joining me from a TV show where all his friends have forgotten about him, it's Chris.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to the new show that you've been on loads of times.
Yay.
We aren't on a new show. I was, of course, referencing a new character in Legends of Tomorrow who was forgotten about in his own show, famously forgotten about.
And then come over to this. What show have I been forgotten about? Well, I suppose Radio 1. Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. I got forgotten about on that years ago. I don't even think they know I still do it. Anyway.
Just for some reason they're paying a power bill on Sunday afternoons and they don't understand why.
Technically, I'm down as janitorial staff, so it's fine. It's just I happen to open the mic when I'm there.
Yeah, fair enough. So of course we're here to talk about Legends of Tomorrow, the second half of Season 3, because if you want to hear us talk about the first half of Season 3, then there is a handy little podcast that does that. Of course, we will possibly reference back to it, assuming our memories are that long, although I don't think mine is. So that's what we do. We reference back to ourselves, we link, and we do show notes and all that stuff. Just basically any excuse to give me more work. So are you ready to talk Legends Season 3 Part 2?
I hope so.
You hope so, okay.
I hope so.
So without spoiling it, for our listeners who may or may not have seen it, and these listeners that we think exist that listen to the first 5 minutes of the podcast to hear general thoughts and then decide I'll go watch this and come back later. The law of averages suggests that one such person exists.
Well, hello to you average person. Our rule of average listener. I have always had, or at first I suppose, I had a mixed thing about Legends. However, I think it's kind of embraced its space. And it kind of gets itself now, and it doesn't take itself too seriously, where I think it succeeds massively in just being a bit of fun. So for that reason, I've really enjoyed it. It's really sort of filled a little void for me, and I've really liked this season.
I'd agree. Season 3 has went from strength to strength, almost without fail. Although there is the odd little niggle here and there that I find kind of off-putting, and there's one episode that I think isn't that great, which I'll get to later. But on the whole, it's been a lot of fun. They still managed to make the characters engaging enough. The stakes always feel reasonable. So it doesn't just feel like they're mucking about, not doing very much, which some other shows have in the past, where you just can't take it seriously anymore because it's too stupid. But this show is always fun, and they did some really cool stuff in the second half of the season. So, still a fan. I think Black Lightning is a technically better show in almost every respect, but this is a lot more fun. It's not disposable, which is great. You can just put it on and enjoy the ride while it lasts.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I don't have any more that I can say without spoiling everything, so should we get Gideon to take us into the spoiler section?
Yes, please, Gideon.
Gideon, fire it up.
Yes, Captain.
Thanks, Gideon.
Thank you.
That's really weird, talking to nothing. Talking to post-production. Is that how actors feel performing against tennis balls?
Hello, sound effects.
In fact, is that how they felt dealing with Malice in the last couple of episodes? See what I did there? That was a seamless. Straight into the spoiler section. Straight into the spoilers.
Yeah. Straight into CGI Malice or Malice.
Whatever the hell you want to do to pronounce
it's Malice.
Yeah, Malice.
No, it's Malice. No,
yeah.
Malice. Yeah, I like that.
Depends who you ask. He thinks it's Malice.
Yes.
And, you know, who are we to argue with a giant winged demon? I certainly wouldn't. I'd run really far in the other direction, but that's just me. Yeah. Okay, so character-wise, a bit of a reduced roster because we lost Martin and Jax. So it was weird. Certainly, as me writing about it, I was so used to going through it and being like listing all the characters. But you know, 2 less, it really made a difference. I think it tightened up the cast slightly, without feeling that the show was missing something fundamental. Of course, Martin and Jax were a significant loss, but I think the dynamic it was enhanced in a way because it did beef up the kind of family angle. They were a family dealing with loss, and that obviously they were dealing with loss with laughs, but dealing with it nonetheless. And I liked that aspect of it. You know, because they were doing the family stuff before Christmas, the last time we talked about it, and the idea that they're becoming more and more of a family as time goes on is really good, and it fits the kind of nature of the show about these misfits who don't really have anyone else, and they come together and make their own version of a family.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, they use it as the kind of cheesy line towards the end of every season, really, but they sort of earn their stripes as legends as they go along with the different battles that they've won.
They do, yeah, although I'm not sure they could be considered legends considering how many mistakes they seem to make.
Not yet, but, you know.
At the end of every season, they seem to create some kind of event that they have to stop in the next season.
Yeah, they create their own legendary status, which is the thing. But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I've got to admit, at the sort of mid-season, I'm going, are we going to kind of miss these characters? What's going to happen? How's the dynamic going to shift? And I think they did well. And then even with the new people that they've brought on, for example, when they brought Wally in. At first, I'm sitting there going, "Oh no, what have they done? You know, what's this going to be?" But the way they introduced him was just ridiculous fun, and he kind of fits in perfectly there. Where I don't even think he fitted in as well over on Flash. I
think on Flash, the problem was they never gave him the chance to fit in. Well, you know, they just left him off to the background and never bothered trying to find anything to do for him or do with him, and then he would just go and. He would go off soul searching and no one would care. You know, there'd be maybe a reference to, where's Wally this week? And he's in China or something, you know, and they made a mess of it. But that's not this isn't the Flash podcast, it's, you know, the Legends of Tomorrow podcast. And I like that they pick that up, where Wally's like, yeah, I'm coming from a team that didn't need me and didn't know what to do with me. And, you know, that they make that part of his character, which is really good. The fact that he doesn't feel useful because this other team didn't use him well and didn't seem to respect him or value him in any way. And that's exactly how it comes across on Flash. So it's almost like the writers of Legends are making fun of the Flash's inability to string sentences together these days.
No, definitely. There were a few little digs about not having anything to do and sort of standing around and sort of wanting to be useful. You know, as soon as they say, oh, we really need to get a hold of that, he's already went and got it and brought it back, whether it's the correct thing to do or not.
Yeah, and I like that they used that as part of his kind of character arc to begin with. The idea that he's just used to running in and grabbing stuff and coming back, but it's Zari that tells him that time travel is something that you need to apply finesse to, so he needs to spend time getting to know what people want, what people need in that particular time period, and then adjust his behaviour to suit that. Although I think anybody on this show talking about applying finesse to anything is a bit
I was about to say. The Legends, of course, well known for their finesse and delicacy.
I suppose Zari has the most finesse out of any of them. I mean, she's the one that seemed to be thinking about what will this action actually do, you know. Or at least in some aspects. She comes up with that algorithm that lets them scan time to see what will happen. Although they had that in season 1. You had Gideon was able to extrapolate a future where where a certain event happened. She did that more than once.
Well, that's true, I suppose, yeah.
But yeah, let's not remember season 1. Season 1 was rubbish. Why do we go back to that?
Yeah, let's not. That was the Finding Their Feet season.
Yeah. I'd argue that season 2 is the finding their feet season. Season 1 is, I don't know what that is, but season 1 is we're paying these actors to do something, so might as well put them in a TV show. We've run out of excuses to cameo them in other shows, so let's.
Sorry, season 1 legends. Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned about Wally's introduction, where he was singing karaoke and stuff with Rip, which I thought was great. I mean, it's like silly, and it's deliberately silly, but it's also these two characters that feel completely lost and rejected, just kind of having some fun, and it's life affirming because Wally thinks he's, that solitude is the only way for him to mend his broken heart, but he kind of learns that he's better suited to actually being out there and doing stuff.
Well, that's the thing, he sort of learns that, and it's two people that have both been sort of rejected by their teams.
Yeah.
That's what I liked over this sort of bonding, is the pair of them sitting there going, oh, and they got rid of me, I built up the whole thing and they got rid of me, and I thought it was just sort of well done. It was, very just stupid and silly, and especially when they're juxtaposing it against sort of action scenes.
Yeah, and one of the writers, or at least one of the writers in the show, doesn't understand how playlists work. When Rip mentions that Wally has Careless Whisper on his playlist a lot of times. So he's got like multiple instances. I suppose you can put multiple instances of the same song.
I mean, he could have like cover versions in there. He could have, acoustic version, calypso version.
His own version.
His own sing-along version. Karaoke version for when he really wants to get in. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. He likes Careless Whisper, which is funny because they say it was Jesse's favourite song and it was their song, and this is like nothing. You don't get any of this on Flash. Just nothing. I start to feel like you get to know Wally a bit. I mean, he is very much in the background because I think the show and the writers haven't figured out what to do with him yet. So they don't know what are the best dynamics. They don't know what his function on the team is really yet. So he's there, and they're just trying him out. We'll get him to share scenes with everyone at some point, and then we'll see what clicks a bit more. I thought it was funny when Amaya was going to do some meditation, and he was like, I can help. I did some meditation once. And he ends up making the situation worse because he just offends everyone in the room systematically.
And then zips his way back out again, yeah. I mean, one of my worries with Wally was that you bring a speedster in, and a speedster's kind of something very, very powerful to drop in the middle of the team, because it's, we need to get that thing. Oh, okay, you've got it. Oh, we need to tie this person up. Oh, you've tied them up. Okay, cool. So they've managed to deal with that pretty well by sort of splitting the team into different parts and, doing the usual sort of depowering or tripping up banana skin styley with people. So they seem to handle it quite well, actually. Yeah,
for now anyway. There hasn't been any kind of speed-specific problems that he's had, and a lot of the time he was kind of performing distraction manoeuvres, which fits him. He's fast enough that no one will catch him, and particularly in the last episode, as everyone was escaping, Wally was, avoiding Malice or John Noble.
He managed to snatch at least a couple of the Infinity Stones.
He did.
Oh, sorry, I mean amulet things.
Totems.
Totems. Infinity Totem Stones, yeah.
It was, I don't know, every week I felt like I had to think about, like, who has what stone now? They changed hands so many times. I was like, hang on, so Damien has the Death Stone again? Like, what? I don't know. It's just one of those things where I think they could have done that better by just making certain people have them for a bit longer than they did, because otherwise it was just, they were just changing hands all the time.
Especially towards the end, it was like they all just went in a box and they all sort of went in blindfolded and went, I'll take this one, sure, yep, I'll go for that one, yeah, why not?
It's like, hang on, the good guys have 3 and the bad guys have the rest, or the one's back with the good guys now. We need Cisco with some kind of pen translucent board to help us figure this out.
So the stone was here, and then the next time we see it's with them, but at the same time, in a different timeline, this person has it, and in the future it'll belong to this person.
Yep. Confusing. post-Christmas break, we had a great treat to come back to. John Constantine joined the team for one great episode, I thought. I loved that episode. I like how they leaned into the horror angle. So it almost felt like an episode of Constantine. Almost. I'm not going to say it did feel like an episode of Constantine, but it almost felt like one, with the legends kind of hanging around, because you had, they had them fighting a possessed, dealing with a possessed little girl who was Damien Dark's daughter, and all this mental asylum stuff, and yeah, it was just good. It was just a lot of fun as a little horror thing, a little horror story inside itself, and shows the ability of this show to jumble tones.
No, definitely. I mean, the thing is, I've got to admit, Constantine isn't a character that I've seen a lot of before. It's not a program that I've watched, so obviously bringing him into this, I knew of the character, had seen bits of the character, but wasn't sure what to expect in this. But when he came along, was actually really, really happy with him. Like you say, that episode was one of the best, sort of quite a haunting episode. I mean, I know they did the one on the ship later on.
Yeah.
Which was equally quite sort of a haunty, creepy episode, which I really enjoyed. But yeah, that one in particular was great. The sort of asylum setting, and that nurse, or the matron, or whatever they're calling her, the head of the establishment, was very creepy indeed.
Yeah, it was good. It's almost, I wonder, I never checked, but I wonder if it was a director of a Supernatural episode that they chucked in for that episode. I mean, it would make sense. They're both on the CW, and Supernatural typically does these sorts of episodes, a lot of weeks. So it would have made sense. One of these days I'll check. If one of the listeners know, tell me. I can't be bothered checking anymore. It's at the moment it's gone.
You Google, so we don't have to.
Yeah, that's it. John is a really good character. I think Matt Ryan is excellent in the role. It's like he's leaped off the comic page. I always said that in the show itself when it was on and sadly cancelled. And I really like that the people involved with this universe have managed to rehabilitate his version of the character by bringing him in, first with Arrow in season 4, and then now here, where he will be joining the cast full-time next season, because we're heading down a mystical road. But I really liked his interaction with Sarah. I like that they preserved all of his comic book traits, which includes chain smoking and being bisexual when he's flirting with Leo. Remember Leo? Yeah, he disappeared. And then obviously he hooks up with Sarah, who, because they're both just really damaged people, which I thought was perfectly fitting for those two characters.
No, definitely. You could see that the two of them were going to get on very well.
Yeah. And it's just the way he kind of bounces off everyone is really good. Ask Ray to come with him to open the door. And then Ray's like, yeah, sure, it's not that hard. You just press this button. He's like, I don't need your help opening the door. I'm just telling you to kill Sarah if you need to. I think he'll shake things up quite nicely next season.
Yeah, Ray, you've got to keep this a secret. Ray instantly tells everyone. With the most guilty, the most guilty look on his face ever.
Yeah. And the thing is, I wasn't bothered by that secret because, unlike in something like Flash or Arrow, where they would linger on it for weeks on end, I knew it wasn't going to last long because you don't have that
an episode's time pretty much is all revealed.
The following week he's like, I haven't been able to eat or sleep, but I have to tell you. That was good. And his, as you said, his later appearance was equally haunting, and I like the way that he deals with Ava, who doesn't like him, and Gary as well, who I really started to warm up to by the end.
Yeah, Gary was one of these characters that I was like, oh, it's him again. Oh, Christ, And it's the places that you least expect. And then towards the end, I've got to say, his sort of infatuation with his boss, I just find a bit weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, very, very funny. And just when you think that the programme can't sort of throw in a bit of humour at this moment because, it will be right, and all the legends are all being very serious at this bit, and you're like, they're not going to be able to fit any humour, and suddenly Gary will fall out a wardrobe or appear in some form of period dress.
Yeah. Gary,
like,
what are you
okay.
doing here? He's like, I'm here to diffuse the situation.
Yeah.
He might as
I'm here to make things better.
Yeah. Sarah's arc, where she was frightened that she was going to go full demon, was pretty cool. She gets over it easily enough, but again,
eventually.
It's not a huge deal, I suppose. But there is that episode where she becomes the villain, and I absolutely loved that. I think, that Sarah tearing her way through her own team is just brilliant, because we already know how formidable she is. If two people walk into a room and they're about to fight, and if Sarah's one of them, chances are she's the one walking out.
Yeah, well, that's exactly the episode I was talking about earlier on, where they sort of, you've got to have these things every once in a while where it's the sort of haunted house styley thing where you have everyone trapped inside, and they've got to work their way out. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's the obvious usual stuff where people go, do you know what we should do? We should all split up and go our own ways and, get picked off one by one, But apart from that, very good episode. I even liked the sort of creepy landscape thing they kept doing when people were talking or trying to defeat Mollis, where they would go into the sort of misty bit with the creepy trees and just with a voice in the distance. I always thought that was quite a smart sort of little thing going over, and then you'd have a sort of young Nora there, sort of trying to break out.
Yeah, and Nora was an interesting character. I really liked her, the interaction she had with Ray in that episode where they went on that adventure together. Because she's unhinged and a little bit evil, and he's just such a dork, really. It's the best way to describe him, where he's just overly excited about everything. And I think the two actors had really good chemistry, which they should, because they're married in real life. If there was no on-screen chemistry, it'd be like, that's concerning.
Yeah, they've really toned up Ray's sort of Boy Scoutness through this whole thing. The fact that he's come up with a song for all the different codes for getting reasons to get to the bridge,
Yeah.
Just bits like that where you're like, oh, bless. I know the character wasn't like that when he was in Arrow and stuff, but come on, I think you've got to kind of... They've just taken everyone's traits and turned the dial up a bit, haven't they?
Yeah, he's become much more dorky since then, and at least they don't forget that he's a genius. So, every now and again he's cutting about in his lab doing stuff. He invents a magic killing gun, just, in his spare time. Something that Cisco usually knocks up in half an hour or so over on the other show. It's that kind of thing. He can be counted on for that, although that's not his only function. Although a big part of his function is being, is being the dork of the team, the lovable dork. And I love when Damien Dark had him kidnapped, and people didn't notice he was gone until dishes started piling up because he really washes them.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where you're like, oh, come on, please, the poor guy. It's like, it's been really quiet around about here. Where is he? It's one of those. His little, his shrink ray is great. Miniaturizing Grodd and all that.
Tiny Grodd.
Tiny Grodd. You're like, oh, this is much more manageable. What was it? Well, it was like a saber-toothed tiger or something like that they had for it, roaming about the ship for a bit. Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. Seems like a proper extension of his tool set, doesn't it?
Absolutely. You don't see him in the Atom suit very often anymore. Although I suppose the same can be said about most of the characters. They're very rarely in costume because they're usually cutting about in period piece, depending where they are. They tend to get in a costume for some big conflict at some point, but it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, even then, a lot of the big conflict scenes, they don't really get into their outfits. And even in the finale, I don't think many of them were cutting about in their garb. I think the most you see everyone sort of lined up in an outfit was before the mid-season. You know, where they went out with young Ray on the Halloween trek, I think is when you saw the most of them in other outfits.
Other than the crossover, of course.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And crossover.
Everyone was suited up. Zari got a snazzy new costume that she now never wears. Zari...
It's only for special occasions.
Of course, yeah. And no one knows what they are. It's a logical point to talk about Zari. Again, like Wally, she's a bit in the background, which makes sense because she's new and they're trying to figure out where she comes from. But I love the time loop episode that wasn't actually a time loop, although probably should have just been a time loop because by the end it's like, what? It's a little bit too complicated. But I really like how that uses it as a kind of fast forward for her to get to know the team individually because she spends so much time repeating the same events and she learns everything about them as she goes.
That episode was just a lot of fun. I mean, the amount of different traps that Mick had left in his room to protect his novel and going back every single time.
His erotic novel.
Yeah. His erotic sci-fi that he's been writing at the back room. Just that episode was just very silly. And like you say, it gave her a lot of FaceTime with different characters that she hadn't spent time with before. Yeah.
And by the end of it, she learns all about them or demonstrates her knowledge of them. And it's a weird, elaborate program cooked up by Gideon to give us an excuse to see her in human form once again. Because, you know, the CW's employed an attractive actress just to do a voice. So got to get her on screen occasionally.
But I always find it weird when you see voice actors in real life because you're just used to seeing the voice all the time. And then you see the voice coming out the mouth, and you go, "Really? Is that the way?" Oh, right, okay. I mean, which of course they do later on with Malice.
Yeah, and a great cameo appearance by John Noble because they realised that he sounds like Malice. That's so funny.
I thought, has he been doing the voice the whole time? Surely that they must have got the guy, and then you sit there and you quickly go on Google and you go, oh my god, they've done that. That's brilliant. I liked it. I just thought very neat, very very neat, and just silly, and right up the legend street, really. Yeah,
and Ray turns up during the filming of Lord of the Rings, and he's like, I'm not eating any more chicken.
Yeah, tell him no more chicken.
And then he starts wondering about who's Nora and what's the Wave Rider and all this stuff. It's just such a great cameo, and it's one of those things where you're like, they shouldn't be getting away with this. This should not be working, but...
Yeah, it's breaking rules. The wall, you're breaking down the wall. Don't break down the wall. You know, because up until this point, you're like, okay, well, the world's different. It's a slightly different world that they're in. But because of Legends going through and sort of establishing all these pop culture references throughout, or even President Obama, you go, okay, so all of this is going on in theory in our real world, with a slight twist to it, an approximation of our world, but it's getting closer and closer every time, apart from the flick the superhero on switch button, you know, which I find very funny when they do that, you know, because the other shows don't even go near that with a barge pole, apart from occasional sort of what music are you listening to, or it's like they did on that film or that TV show, which they occasionally do. But it's very rare that they sort of establish real-world events within their universe.
Yeah, although my nerd brain is kind of struggling with it, because they established that Obama was the president at some point. Okay, probably around about the same time he was in our universe. Fine. But then, in the Invasion crossover, you've got another president, some woman, I can't remember her name, but she's there, you know, she gives them her the medals and all that stuff. And then they're making a lot of jabs at Trump. You know, Gary's wig looks presidential, all that, Make America Grow Again, all that stuff. So, where does Trump fit in this equation?
Yeah. I mean, that's the most important thing we should be debating about Trump just now, is how does he fit into Legends of Tomorrow? And
when was he president in the Arrowverse? That's just what I want to know.
are we looking at the universe where the legends really have done something wrong? In which case, I may not be able to forgive them.
There's one anachronism too many. They wiped out the president in present during invasion, and
there's no more superheroes and Trump. Oh my God, legends! What have you done? It's
yeah. Cheers, guys. Thanks for that. Really good for you to do that. Mick sits around and says stuff that's really funny, but doesn't have that much to do, in terms of characterization. The smut novel he was writing, let's call it that. It's a smut novel. It's the show calls it a romance novel, but we all know what it is. And it's funnily enough, it can't be read out on the show that it's being written on, because that would make it.
Well, they hint at it, and the hints are enough. Though I would like to see the someone try and continue on from the lines that they've been given already.
Yeah, and yeah.
In fact, I bet there's someone online that's already done that.
Just don't Google that.
Yeah, don't save yourself. Just don't. I mean, was the Vietnam episode in this half, or was it in the previous half? It was in the first half. Well, see, he got the development from the Vietnam thing, and they bring it on in little bits and pieces here. I mean, you do get him mourning the loss of his pet rat through this. You get weird little things. You'll finally coming to terms with the fact that his pal's gone.
Yeah.
That his sort of lifelong friend's gone, and he sort of accepts his place in the legends. I think as much as he's still. The essence of that character is all still there. He has had quite a bit of development through the show, really. When you take him from what he was, which was sort of villain, turncoat villain, even in earlier seasons, to where he is now.
Yeah, he's definitely part of the team, but most of his scenes are him eating and or drinking. And occasionally he'll set fire to something. Although there was one part where I was kind of drawn into him as a character, other than his back and forth with Leo was good, because it was a riff on the dynamic they had before. It was different because Leo was a different person, but there was still that chemistry there. There was that partnership-ish thing. But there was the point where the rat dies, and they chase around a ghost rat, which is really funny. But the rat dies, and I think it's Nate apologises for it. Says, that's it. He lived a good life, and he simply says just one more change on this ship, which suggests that he's just sick of everything that's been changing lately. There's the loss of Martin, the loss of Jax, Wally joining the team, his rat dying. It's like too much change, and it's almost this very human thing of someone who's dealing with a lot altering in his life in a very short period of time, and it does cause him to retreat into himself, become a bit insular, write a smut novel, all that stuff. It's that kind of, they don't play with the reaction that much, but it's just him being frustrated with everything, and it's almost like he chooses not to be close to the team anymore because he doesn't know what one he's going to lose next. Or that was at least the impression I got.
No, that seems right, to be honest, that he's sort of worried about losing others and has come to sort of just accept that things keep going wrong and they'll keep losing people on the ship. And yeah, I mean, a lot of his humour is just taking the mickey out of people, the stupid nicknames that he gives everyone, and little throwaway lines. But I still quite like him in the show. I think he's a good character.
Oh yeah, he's an important part of the team, and the show wouldn't be half as entertaining without him, because you have a scene where everyone's like, right, okay, we need to go at this time period and stop this happening before everything goes to hell in a handbasket, and he's like, guys, shut up, I'm trying to watch Lord of the Rings. Or why he's doing that on the bridge, I don't know, but at the same time he's there and he's munching on like a sandwich or drinking beer or whatever, and he's just like, shut up guys, I don't care, I'm just here.
How come he's not massively overweight as well? He must have a hell of a training regime that we don't see behind the thing there, because he's eating constantly.
Yeah, maybe calories don't count in the temporal zone.
We all need to move there.
We're all going there, yeah. And I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's one of those CW things, isn't it, where people don't get fat. It's a shame, But well, it's not a shame, but just one fat character. That's all I want. Even Nate, our resident historian, is like a bit too built to be what you would consider a historian.
Yes, where's the everyman? Where's the person representing us normals in here? Yeah.
Thing is, I don't remember the point where Nate became that, because when you first meet him, he's as much of a dweeb as Ray is. Where at the start of season 2, he bumbles into the mayor's office in Star City and gets Oliver to help him, and at some point he just becomes this like really confident, womanizing, self-assured, I said confident, but there's a weird shift in the character that I don't know is happening at any point. And
yeah, I didn't particularly see them throw it from 0 to 1 or anything like that. It was a gradual thing, but I think combined with what they've done to Ray, I think it's probably to give them defined characters, whereas if they're both merging into one very similar character, then they've got nowhere to go.
Yeah, I also can't stand Nate. Still don't like the guy.
He's still... He's not particularly jumped out at me as a character, which is a bit of a shame, really. But I think it's because the other characters around are quite strong and well defined and have been established somewhere else, whereas he's sort of one that's a Legends own kind of thing. And yeah, I don't know. I think he needs something to sort of kick him off a bit.
He should hang around with Ralph Dibney, another character. Don't Might as well. We'll just... There's
the spin-off no one is asking for.
Yeah, that'd be the show I didn't watch. Why don't you watch the show? I hate everyone in it.
Dibney and Haywood, buddy cop film. Yeah.
No.
You sure?
No, definitely not. And I can't think of much that they did with Nate, other than, he liked Elvis.
He liked Elvis and the whole love... not really love triangle thing, but doomed relationship thing of this relationship's going to end, and that we can't be together, and that sort of doomed romance, that doomed love that they've got. I quite like
the idea of them just struggling to accept the fact that at some point the relationship would have to end, and you've got this point where they're trying to keep it a bit more casual, but you know where it's going to end up before you start. It's going to end up with them giving into the feelings that they so obviously have, and it makes it difficult for them to part ways later. And it gets to the point where Amaya just turns her back on that, and her pirate adventure kind of teaches her to be more spontaneous and more selfish. And Mick has a hand in that as well. I like that he's the devil on the shoulder in that respect. He's like, yeah, just do what you want. And it's really funny when she's asking his advice, and she's like, I could do this. I could go back to my people and, whatever, like I'm supposed to. And he's like, yeah, do that. And it's like, but I don't want to leave Nate. I'm enjoying being with him. And he's like, yeah, do that. So Mick doesn't care what she does, and it acts as that kind of sounding board for her, which is good. Well, he doesn't mean to act as a sounding board. He just wants to drink and get her shut up. And it turns out that it's just a really helpful thing, because it is someone not telling her what to do, and it's encouraging her to really do what she wants to do, which made for an interesting scene, certainly.
I agree. I enjoyed it, and I thought I do like what they've done with Amaya. The sort of constant. I know that at some point I've got to go back, and is now the time I go back? Is it later that I go back? And then even introducing did she genuinely forget about Nate when they see sort of old Amaya when they go back? Did she genuinely forget, or did they zap her at some point so she'd forget, and is that later on? I mean, they're going to play about with that the whole time, aren't they? They
very much confirm that that she zapped herself to forget, so that she could live out her life normally. And then you've got and Kwasa is thrown in as a complication as well, quite rightly so, actually, because she doesn't want the relationship to continue because she wants to be born, and you can't argue with someone who wants to be born. It's fair enough. So it answers the question, because earlier on in the season it could be sort of theorised that Nate was maybe Kuasa and Mari, Vixen from Arrow and her own animated show. So Nate could be their grandfather, but he's not, and they confirm that completely. So it makes it to the point where it's, this choice has to be made, otherwise these people get wiped from existence, and who are you to wipe these people from existence? So even though Kuasa turns out to be a villain, although a complex villain, because she gets to try and save Amaya. No, she doesn't save Amaya. She protects Mari, doesn't she?
Mm.
Yeah, who doesn't appear, which is quite awkward. The amount of times they reference her, and it's like, oh yeah, she's just over there. Don't look over there though.
She's in the hospital. She's in this room underneath this blanket. Don't look. No peeking.
Yeah. And as far as I'm aware, Amaya only exists as a character because they wanted to get Mari on the show. That's why her costume looks more modern than it should for a 1942 costume, because they're just using the costume they made for Arrow. It just happens to fit her, I guess, or they've adjusted it. But so they originally wanted Mari to join the team. The actress wasn't available, so they're like, we still want Vixen. We can have the same power set. Grandmother, job done. But it's ended up creating this even richer possibility, because you have that tragic, temporally doomed love thing, which is pretty cool. I may not be invested in Nate at all, but I think the relationship is handled fairly well.
Yeah, definitely.
And then her decision to go back in time to change it, because she gets to see what her granddaughter's like and wants to make it better for her. And it's the idea that time is changeable. It's not that important, or at least they think that.
Well, if we're gonna mess it all up, we might as well mess it all up in a way that we think is going to work better. It seems to be the rule at the end is like, okay, we know the genie's going to get out the bottle, so we might as well have, let's try and twist it a little bit as we do it. Let's work it to our advantage rather than just messing up something else. Let's try and put right, in inverted commas, something.
Yeah. My issue with that is also the fact that they do change the timeline in quite a significant way and apparent consequences. So what you've got is Kuasa and Mari apparently share the totem because, they grew up learning to share. Okay. And they're both apparently protect Detroit, maybe? I don't know. But, so you see Mari and Arrow, and the whole idea of this is you can't change that because it's going to impact the timeline, read the other shows, too significantly if we change this event. They change that event, and there's no changes elsewhere.
Yeah, I do. See, the thing is, Legends was always going to struggle with this. And my cop-out for Legends is, it's fun, I'll let them away with murder. Because if we look too in-depth into all the things they mess around with the timelines and the way they do it, and you consider what happened, and it's even raised in the show, Wally sort of raises it, Flashpoint, and what they did in The Flash, where one life is saved and suddenly someone's baby has changed sex and other characters are alive, other characters are dead, some people aren't policemen anymore, and some people are now villains, and some people are now heroes, and the implications are just ridiculously butterfly effecting away. Then Legends by this point would have changed the format of all the other shows. So I've got to try and let them off, because otherwise it just won't work. And if you want to hear us debating time travel and time travel rules, then there's a podcast further back in your feed with me, Craig, and Aaron talking all about it.
Or further forward. No, it's back.
Further forward in time? It could be further forward in time. I think we're still to record it, but it's already in the feed. The long-awaited...
We're just not sure when we record it yet.
Yeah, it's true. It's like we know we go back and record it, we just don't know when we do go back to record it and what we've watched once we do. So, spoilers. And for me... my part in that debate was basically saying, listen, they're doing it in a fun way where they're trying to take it seriously, not serious at the same time, and I've got to let it have that grey area, because otherwise the programme just loses its premise. You can't do it. It would be impossible for them to stringently stick to it. As much as in this season they've used the memory erasing gizmo a lot more times. Even in the finale, you see sort of your cowboys and all that getting lined up and zapped by the memory eraser.
Yeah.
And you know that you've got the implication is that you've got a time bureau team that's basically going behind them and doing some minor fixes. Yeah. The legends are coming along and fixing the big problem, and then close behind them is the cleanup crew making sure that there's no longer lasting changes.
Yeah.
So, you can do a little bit of headcanon in there to nick your phrase. However, I do think that when you look deeper into it, you're like, yeah, there's so many things that would be ruined by this. Especially when they've established already that little minor changes can suddenly have massive consequences that reach beyond the other programs.
Yeah, I agree with that to an extent. I can sort of hand wave away Obama getting attacked by a gorilla during his college years, because the implication is that anybody that sees that no longer remembers it, so therefore the future isn't impacted. Minor events here and there, you can imagine that the ripple effects aren't huge. They just get on with it. The timeline corrects itself, but a significant event like that is something that should at least be addressed. The last time they kind of messed around with time in that way, it created this season in itself, which is fine. I think that's right. So they should have done something with that, and maybe they will. Maybe they haven't just haven't done it yet. I mean, the thing is, the episode of Arrow or the episode of Flash that aired immediately after it doesn't mention Vixen. So at some point, and it might just amount to call Mari and Kwasa instead of call Mari, but. Maybe the only difference is that there's now two of them who, one of them sits at home and the other is out there with the totem.
It's a very modern way of being a vigilante, isn't it? Part-time. I do evenings and weekends. They do day shift. I quite like that.
Yeah, maybe that's how Diggle and Oliver could have sorted out their straw. You get the costume Monday, Wednesdays, and for Thursdays. I'll take it Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays. We'll alternate Sundays. Then yeah, sorted.
And every fourth Tuesday, it's like okay.
Yeah. Why not? And occasionally there'll be a holiday where we might have to step in and do a bit more. But yeah, it is an interesting way to do it. And I think at some point I'd like to see Mari reintroduced. I mean, I thought the episode of Arrow that she was in was really good. And the fact that they kept mentioning her this season is just a bit awkward, because you just know that you're not going to see her. Or, oh, she's lying in hospital. Yeah, she's unconscious right now. But I'm her dad, who was, the voice in the animated show, I think. And I'll talk to you. But it's like, nah, we don't want to talk to you. We don't care about you. We don't really care about Mari, because in the context of the show, you don't know her. But she's just an idea that can be aspired to. Or that Amaya can be proud of in the future. That idea that I have to go back because then this happens, and I'm really proud of this thing. So at some point, I do need to fulfill that destiny. And you just have to wonder... You have to wonder what that is. And I mean, by the end of the season, she leaves. Although reportedly she's going to be on the main cast again next season.
But you can almost, there's some bits of this that are a bit predictable. But you know what? I'm happy for her to be in it. I don't have a problem with her, really. I just have the feeling that if you're going to, you've kind of done your run now of, I've got to get back, I've got to be there to protect the town, I've got to be there to, we know that she goes back at some point, and do we really need that to be a recurring theme for the next season again? I kind of feel like we've covered it in a way. Yeah,
and I wonder if they'll do a kind of Clara approach in Doctor Who. They pick her up for an adventure and send her back at the end of the episode, that kind of stuff. We need you for this episode, although that might get a bit old after 13 weeks. It's like, we said we wouldn't call Amaya in unless it was absolutely necessary. And it's like,
but you have the feeling that from the hint that we get at the very, very end here, there's a lot more demons roaming about. So they're going to need more totem bearers to trap demons again, I presume, or at least the worst of them.
Yeah. It's very much an Amaya sort of problem, or maybe she'll go off on her own adventure for a little while. I don't know. someone turns up and does. Helps her with, I don't know who, but someone. Let's talk about Rip Hunter. Yeah, so he kind of turns up here and there. He's the reason that Wally shows up. He's always got some kind of duplicitous plan on the go. Be it covering up the truth about Ava, or... Well, I think that's about it, isn't it?
He covers up the truth about Ava. There's a bit of manipulation in the background in order to get himself back into the Time Bureau, and but apart from that, yeah, he doesn't get given too much, and he makes his big sacrifice at the end here. But my normal podcast rule of until I see the mutilated corpse, I have the I still think
the severed head.
The severed head, yeah. Mutilated corpse and severed head, then he can come back, especially in a programme like this where characters have come back from far worse.
Oh, yeah, I think he'll do a deke and be chucked at some point in the time stream.
Oh yeah, he'll fall out of a time stream somewhere, or he'll appear in the background of something. I mean, they've done it in Legends with Rip already.
Yeah.
It's like, at this point, it's like, it would not be surprising if at some point, 2 episodes in, he's going to show up somewhere, as a director again, or as a writer, a sci-fi writer or something again. They'll sort of run that old one out. But yeah, he's not given too much. I mean, how many orders has he installed in Gideon?
Yeah.
How many overrides are in there, At some point, someone should ask Gideon, can you just delete all of Rip's passwords, please? Get a bit fed up of this now.
Yeah, every time he comes on board, he takes over the ship. It's getting annoying.
Yeah.
I know it was his ship to begin with, but ours now. Pub rules.
Yeah, ours. Yeah.
Squatters'
rights.
Yeah, I think Rip's sacrifice was good. I like the idea that he was just, he was at peace because he was getting to finally join his wife and son. His entire motivation that we forgot about way back because it was in season 1 and it was Vandal Savage, and they kept just being blisteringly incompetent when trying to deal with him. So I like that idea that he's like, I'll get to be with them now, and I'm quite happy with that. And if I can help them escape, then great. That was really good. But yeah, if Malice gets chucked out at some random point in the past, then he does too, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, definitely. And that was the suggestion, is that he got thrown out somewhere. So you'd think that happened to Rip as well. But
yeah. What do we think of Ava?
Ava, at first, I was a bit, yeah, she's alright, she's there, she's kind of like the new person for them to rally against, and, let's stick it to the man kind of thing that's telling us that we're not good enough to go out there and be time travellers, we should all stay at home. And then you correctly predicted, a bit of romance with Sarah or maybe be on the cards, and I was like, I don't think so, no, not really. And then suddenly, yep, there they are. A bit of a romance through it, and a bit of a fun friendship, just what a fun, silly couple, and I enjoyed it. I mean, the twist, I don't know whether even to call it a twist. It was, but
by definition, it is a twist.
By definition, it is a twist. However, I didn't care. I thought it was a fun episode to have multiple Avas, especially. Can you imagine breaking up with someone and then ending up on a planet full of clones of them?
Well, she shouldn't have broke up with Ava in the first place. But
They shouldn't have broken up, but it's one of those ones where it's artificially created. And then, I thought that was quite funny. So you've got Gary, who is sort of completely, obsessed, ends up in his fantasy world, and then Sarah also ends up there. But I thought, it was a good episode. Enjoyed the episode. The twist was like, okay, fine. It kind of ties back to when Rip went to raise all files on whatever they had called it, on this particular time thing, or lock this down. You're like, all right, fine. The sort of actors pretending to be your parents.
Yeah.
I thought that was, just really stupid thing, really fun, just bit dopey sort of. But yeah, it was all right. It didn't shock me in any way, but I suppose I'd seen a teaser the week before, which I think spoilt some of it for me. So the teaser at the end of the episode going, next week on, on Legends of Tomorrow, and they sort of showed all the clones walking about. So I was like, oh, all right, so it's clones. So it kind of took any of the shock value out of it. For me, I think if I hadn't seen that, I might have gone, oh, that isn't what I expected. I was expecting some sort of terrible backstory, memory erased and planted with different parents and things, which I suppose it was, but not quite what I thought.
My thoughts on Ava is that I really like the character. I think she was really well done, bounced off Sarah really well, had that kind of corporate attitude, I suppose, that softened naturally as the show went on. The twist surrounding her, I didn't like that episode at all because there's so much to that the episode fails to even scratch the surface on. So what you've got is, right, these clones certainly have the ability to become sentient because Ava is sentient, which means that the company that's making them is somehow suppressing that. And also, what the humanity has done is become comfortable with buying into a slave race. You've got a slave race of this one person, but none of that is addressed. None of it at all. And they just have a fight with a bunch of Avas and then leave.
Yeah, it's I agree with you with that, with the way the world is. And the bit I forgot actually was when Rip says, like, was it the 13th? How many had you had by then?
Something like the 12th or something. Yeah,
was it the 12th? You're the 12th, 13th, whatever it was. And that was the bit where I went, oh, whoa, hang on, this makes it completely different. This isn't like one he took and went, well, you'll be a good sort of corporate stooge for me. It was like he's just been replacing her every time there's been a mess up. He's just went, right, take another one off the production line and off we go,
Which is, it's really dehumanizing, it's really horrible, and it's one of those things that Rip may not be able to, shouldn't be redeemed after that kind of thing, but also it kind of makes sense because I thought that Ava changed a lot throughout the season. And, while I thought the relationship growth was natural, I think that almost every time, or certainly after the mid-season break, that from then on, she's a very different person. She's much more reasonable, much more amenable, much more willing to work with the Legends. And I wonder if that's like, they are all different people. That's why she changes so abruptly throughout the season. Instead of it being convenient plot-driven writing, it's actually a clever suggestion of what that character is. Still not good, though.
Yeah, also for the continuity point of view, when they say, oh, this particular time period in this particular place is locked off, but they've been further into the future before, as far as I'm aware, and unless this is something like, oh, well, Ava was a fad for 1 year, and then we deleted all knowledge of her from the database,
But there's also the future that's full of atom suits, so, there's...
That's true.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's confusing in a way. And I think that they didn't really need to do that. I think Ava was interesting enough without that twist. You have that idea of her doubting her own identity, and you've got that whole... she thinks, therefore she is sort of thing. She accepts that she's a person because everyone accepts that she's a person afterwards, and they don't really care where she came from. There's all that, all that standard stuff. But again, you could have done that some other way, and the clone thing, it just has too many kind of grisly and weird implications to settle with me. It doesn't sit right with me. And ultimately, it doesn't really go anywhere. It's just kind of something that happens, and the episode it happens in is a waste of time because it doesn't further any other plot. Yeah,
apart from the sort of relationship, putting the relationship back on track, it doesn't really do much for the other...
No.
The core story.
No, not really. How about the Darks, specifically Damien Dark, who, is back and... as entertaining as ever. Every single episode I was delighted to see the guy because they just kept bringing different things, and this is a character that could so easily become a one-dimensional panto villain, and Neil McDonough leans into this panto villain type persona. Actually, he shows up and he's quippy and he's like, "Look how powerful I am! I'm just going to kill you guys," and then all that stuff. But then you add in his daughter, and he has a really confused and really interesting relationship with his daughter, where ultimately he's trying to be a better father, and he's got himself into a mess that he didn't predict would go this way. He didn't think he was going to lose Nora. He didn't think that Malice was going to upstage him, because you don't upstage Damien Dark. That's part of it as well.
Yeah, well, it was kind of like he made the deal at the time, and I can't remember what the wording was. I made the deal at the time, and I thought I'd just get out of it like I normally do, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that, you can believe from that character that he would go, right, I made a deal with a demon, my daughter's now safe, I will deal with the consequences later. And then always seemed to think, oh, well, I'll get out of this. Or when I saw us ruling the world, this isn't what I imagined, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously he gets in too deep. He's going to lose Nora. And that's ultimately why he decides to turn against Malice, because Nora is more important to him. And you believe that. You know, you believe that he's certainly not a good guy, but they do redeem him towards the end when he takes... You know, when the only real change is that he takes on Malice's essence just before he escapes. So therefore, he's the one that's destroyed. So, you know, what better end for a father could you think of than saving his daughter's life and allowing her to have that life that he took from her? Which is, you know, that nice piece of symmetry there.
Yeah, I do. I like that. I thought... It was one of those ones where it's like, I don't want him to go. I don't want him to be killed off. And... the normal rules, as applies to Rip, applies to him. But
you saw him dissolve.
We saw him dissolve. We kind of assume that's it. But he's done such a good job with it. He's been so much fun. When you saw him, I've said this I don't know how many times. When you saw him in Arrow originally, I never would have pictured this as the way that he would go out. But they've done quite a good bit of development with him, bringing the daughter in. The sort of relationship between him and Ray in particular, and the thing has just been a lot of sort of silliness going on. I like it. I like it a lot. And it is that panto villain, melodramatic flair that he's got.
But also with so much depth, and that's why he's engaging. The thing about Damien Dark is, even if you do kill him in a time travel show, you travel back to pretty much any time in human history. You know, like after a certain point, he could, in theory, show up because he's still alive. You know, he's lived through it all, and you see his younger self with a hilarious wig, and gets given the idea to pursue magic and all that stuff. I've liked that. I actually liked that part because the episode was about him realizing his failures as a father and as a human being, I suppose, and what he literally does is faces down the actual physical representation of that in his younger self. He is like, he fights the thing that he has to overcome, which is those failings in himself, and it's great. And you know, I love the bit where his younger self phones him for like a ransom threat and all that stuff. Just if you want to see the girl again, come here. And he's like, I'm going to kick my ass. It's such a great character, and I think they should go away from him now. You know, they've had 3 seasons worth of mileage out of the guy on 2 different shows. That's enough.
Yeah, I think I'd love for him to turn up in little one-off things, but yeah, he can't be the main villain or henchman or running guy through.
Even him just turning up as a younger version of himself. I mean, younger is relative because he'll still look the same because he's ageless. But even if he just turns up as a random assassin they have to deal with at some point. I mean, I suppose inevitably some of the biggest assassinations in history were him. You know, I'm just waiting for the JFK episode where it's Damien Dark with a sniper rifle or whatever, chucking magic at him from the grassy knoll. You know, that kind of stuff, or deflecting the bullet using. I don't know. Damien Dark probably killed JFK. That's my theory. He probably didn't, and whatever other assassinations, famous assassinations throughout history you can think of, were probably him. He stops cold fusion from being a thing, which then Ray rediscovers, I guess, which is fine. And but I think it would cheapen his sacrifice to have him just turn up as a recurring villain now and again. I think move on, find something else. Although they're going to be struggling for charismatic villains now. I mean, all the shows are struggling for charismatic villains right now. Except Supergirl.
Yeah.
And Black Lightning. Black Lightning as Tobias. He's awesome. or had Tobias. I've seen the end of season 1 now. But yeah, that doesn't mean that he dies. I'm just meaning that it's done. There's no more season 1, so therefore Tobias isn't a thing at this point. But yeah, he's a good villain too. But that's for a later podcast.
Time travel.
Time travel, yeah. So the Arrowverse is losing one of its biggest villains, in theory, and I'm not sure how they top him. Or match him, and it's been like that in Arrow I suppose Prometheus was good. Ricardo Diaz, not so much. But in this show, I don't know what they're going to do next. Maybe it'll just be like Supernatural Threat of the Week with no overriding threat, but then what's the season about?
Yeah, I think they might go back to sort of odd villains, or just, the thing is, it seems that they're saying, there's lots of demons that have been released. Now, it could be a demon a week, it could be a demon every 2 weeks, it could be, with one big bad at the end, I don't know. Depends on what format they're planning to do. Yeah,
the end of level boss seems to be the format for these shows. So I'm going to think that they'll be fighting loads of minions that lead up to a bigger boss. Much like, but that would just be Malice again. That's
true. That's true.
The Malice wasn't that interesting a villain as such. I mean, he was a big threat and he was hanging over the season and he had a great voice, but ultimately he was just a CGI demon who wanted to destroy the universe or something. It's one of those things where I like that the show doesn't lend too much importance to that character because he isn't a character, he's a collection of things that need to be defeated, so he might as well just be a computer generated creation by the end. So they do the right thing with that, I think, and the real story is Damien and Nora.
There's a lot with these big villains where you turn around and go, what's your plan again? I'm going to destroy the universe. Okay, and what are you going to do once you destroy the universe? Don't know. It'll be gone. It's like I don't understand sometimes with these ones. So it's always good to sort of shine the light away from them a little bit, because otherwise you look and you go, well, this is just a bit silly. What's your end game? What's your plan? It's like, you had it in the world. Okay, fine.
You had it in Buffy where. You had it in Buffy where someone was, where it was Angel in season 2, spoilers for Buffy, was trying to end the world, cause the apocalypse and have them be sucked into a hell dimension, and Spike turns against Angel because he's like, nah, I don't want to be sucked into a hell dimension, I like it here. I don't want to end the world. This like food, I can eat people here, I can watch TV, that, and you've got that kind of, why would you destroy the universe when you live in the universe? But I suppose in the Arrowverse it doesn't matter. You can go to another universe.
And then destroy that one. Woo.
Yeah, just keep destroying universes. It's my hobby. Yeah. Fine. But, so the final episode, the major conflict wasn't that. It wasn't Malice. Because he was just that thing that needed to be defeated. But the real conflict was the legends becoming worthy of the totems. And their approach to worthiness is one I really liked, because normally, look at Thor, right? He can lift a hammer because he's worthy. Why is he worthy? Don't know. Just cause. He is. There's no other reason for him to be worthy other than he just is. In this show, worthiness is tied to self-belief. So they have to believe that they're worthy in order to earn the ability to use whatever totem they use. So anyone can be worthy, which I quite like. It's just all about getting to that point. And that's what the final episode is largely about. It's about them all having that confidence to feel like they should wield the totems. And as soon as they get that, the totems respond to them. Yeah,
I agree with you. I think it's one of those things, the totems, not designed to be worthy, and not that you need to have had a perfect life either to wield them. Because Mick goes, I'm not going to be able to wield one because, what have I done in my past and all this sort of stuff. So I like that. Or even Sarah, of course.
Yeah. Well, Sarah was afraid that she was worthy. That was her.
Yeah, that's worthy of the death totem. Yeah.
So, and you had that thing where Amaya's trying to explain. They do this thing early on where it's like, oh well, everyone's had an adventure that's keyed straight to their life in some way. It challenges them to achieve some kind of personal revelation about themselves. So Mick sees that his father had a reason to be abusive. Doesn't excuse what he did, but he sees the reason for it, at least. Ray, I don't know what he learns. He learns that his compassion and whatever else isn't isn't a failing of his. You know, he learns to be confident in caring about other people and believing the best, because that's ultimately what makes the Dominator save them. And so on. You know, you've got these little adventures that they all have that kind of prove their worthiness in some way. It doesn't explain why they were having all those adventures that were connected to their own pasts, though doesn't have to, because magic, I suppose. But at the same time, it's all about choice, which I like. You know, a lot of the time with magic, it's about removing choice, because, you know, someone being a chosen one is much easier than actually creating a character who develops. So, you know, a reluctant chosen one is a much easier character arc to do. And the fact, if the entire Legends team were the de facto chosen ones, then that would be stupid.
Well, that's the thing. If it becomes this was foretold that you would wield the, you know, then it becomes a bit like, okay, fine, go with that. But I kind of like the way that they worked around it and did it, and what they create when they wield their totems is a marvel to behold.
Well, I like the first attempt, this kind of inside-out monstrosity that
they burn and stomp and just go, oh my god, what the hell's that?
I had to put the poor thing out of its misery. Yeah. But I did love the manifestation. It was a bit, you know, it was a bit Ghostbusters. You know, they think of that thing that's good and pure, so they think about Bebo, and then you have a great CGI fight between Bebo and Malice that's just insane. It's just,
yeah,
you know.
It's when everyone was sort of peeking out and going, oh my god, what are we doing? Oh my god, have you looked? No, I've not looked. What is it? Oh no. And I was like, what are they creating? And then when it was Bebo, I was like, oh, brilliant, because that was one of the most fun episodes earlier on, was the Bebo Norse god episode. So yeah, getting Bebo back again is just one of those ones where you just think, this would not happen anywhere else. I don't think. It's just, you know, this is the season finale. This is the big villain that they've been building up to the whole time, and they're taking it out with a legally different Tickle Me Elmo. It's just so silly. You've got to just embrace it, haven't you?
Absolutely, I completely embraced it. I think it's a good way of getting around the whole, well, the season was good until it culminated in a really boring CGI fight. It's almost as if the writers and CGI people understood that the boring CGI fight response might exist. So it's like, okay, let's make it about the characters becoming worthy of doing this thing, and then when it happens, we'll just chuck in Bebo fighting a demon, because you know,
we'll have our final episode involving pirates, cowboys, and what was the other? Romans. You know, it's like in a big fight in the Wild West, because why not? You know, you've just got to give them credit for just going, yeah, why not, and putting it in there. And as much as they could have made it, okay, Wally runs fast, lures Malice into a trap, and they all stand in a circle and focus really hard and melt him. At the end, go to credits. You know, as much as they could have done that, they just went, no, we're going to do this really silly thing. This is, you know, we'll enjoy this.
And I loved when Bebo exploded and there was like blue fur everywhere. That's brilliant.
Now, there must be Bebo cosplay going on now, surely. I
would imagine so.
There will be. Will be somewhere.
Yeah, but it's just such a great sequence, and it's just, I don't know. I was watching it at about I was watching this about 6:15 in the morning at this point, you know, because I watch it in the morning, and it's just, it just makes your day great. Sets you up for the day nicely, seeing a giant Furby fighting a demon. And it looks good as well. The CGI was incredible on Malice. You know, it was used sparingly enough, so they didn't overtax it. And then when he was on screen, he was great. And Bebo looked amazing as well. Giant Bebo. I mean, he was like fighting in that generic sort of, you know, open grassland area kind of thing, which is fine. You know, he needs an arena of some sort, and it was quite brief, but
It was brief.
satisfying.
It was very sort of slow moving and lumbering along. But do you know what? It was just stupid. So I'll forgive it.
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes to the rest of the season, what were kind of your favourite and least favourite moments or episodes?
Oh, now I'm going to struggle. What was my most favourite and my least favourite? I'm trying to think.
For me, it was the Ava episode that was my least favourite. I think that was just problematic all over the place.
Yeah, the Ava episode, I think I've got to agree, was probably my most disappointing one, and I think some of my disappointment was because the sort of twist had been sort of revealed before, so it wasn't much of a surprise thing when they got there. So that was kind of a disappointment to me. Best episodes, I mean, I thought the finale was really good, but the way they built up to it with Damien Dark, the episode before, I thought was quite good. Yeah, there was a lot of fun, different, random stuff in there, so I'm going to really struggle to pick one out, right?
Yeah, I've kind of touched on my favourite episodes. I liked the Ray and Nora team-up episode. That was good. Anything involving John Constantine is always going to get my vote because they just did so well by him. I wasn't a huge fan of the pirate episode, but I acknowledge that was personal to me because I don't like pirates for some reason. I mean, I still think I gave it a high score because I acknowledged it was a good episode, but, you know, whenever I hear it's pirates, I'm like, nah, can we do without that, you know? And same with the Wild West, to be fair. I don't like the Wild West that much. Although, again, the finale didn't really use the Wild West in any traditional way. And so there was all sorts of good stuff going on. You know, they did some really good character stuff. I actually quite liked the Elvis episode. I like the idea that, you know, they brought back his twin brother who died in the womb, but he was kind of haunting him through the guitar. That was a nice touch.
Yeah, there was neat bits. I mean, I like the Elvis episode. I do think my favourite is the one that we've, you've kind of mentioned already. The Ray and Nora one was really good fun, getting to sort of see Damien Dark in his good old days as an assassin was just a bit, it was just one of these Legends things that's just silly and, yeah. I enjoyed it, but yeah, I'd struggle to pick. And I also mentioned the sort of haunted house one on the ship, which I enjoyed. I can't remember the name of the actual episode or even what number it was because I'm so good at my research and stuff. But Sarah with the death totem and tempted over to Mollis and sort of slowly taking the team out.
Was the
there you go, well done. Slowly taking the team out one by one. I thought that
was cool.
Neat episode.
Yeah. I also like to, I mentioned it before, I like the time loop episode, although I feel like it ends one scene too late. You know, you don't need to see Rip walking up to Wally to speak to him. The last scene of the episode where she's playing the violin, over what everybody's up to, was quite a touching little moment and kind of ruins it with the next week on Legends we'll be doing this. Sometimes it's less is more,
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. That episode was just... It was just exploring the other characters with no threat, and where other shows, when they get we've got not much of a budget, we can't really go too far out the we can't have any other sort of CGI villains in this week. We can't go to, we can't go to, the old sort of Star Trek thing of we're going to have to do a ship-based episode today because
that's basically what it was.
We can't afford the holodeck. We can't afford a set somewhere else. We can't afford to go to location. We'll do a couple of cheap episodes on the ship. And both of them have been sort of standout episodes. The ones where they've went, do you know what? We don't need that much. We'll just do what we've got with a cast on the ship. Not too many extras or anything like that we need. We just need this little tight cast. And they did really well with it.
Yeah, definitely. Bebo kept turning up, which was
those little references in the background, and there was little shots. I'm trying to remember all the times that Bebo's got thrown at people or turned up in the background, and like kids holding Bebo and all that. Yeah,
and Upswipes turned up quite a lot as well.
Upswipes, yeah, I even set up an Upswipes profile. I thought made me, yeah.
Yeah, what was it? And he puts his like real age on it, or the closest thing he can get to it, and the only person he gets matched with is Cupid. This one of the most annoying villains ever. That was quite a nice touch. It's the bit where he's because he kills Ray's old boss, doesn't he, on Silicon Valley? And it's quite funny when he's talking about, I'm having trouble like fitting in. Do you think I should, and he's just like killing this guy. Damien Dark, just that's what he is, and he's so deliciously evil, and you can never hate him. And then when he does want to like go good for an episode, it's like, come on, be fun, just hang around.
Just for the one episode, Go on, Damien, go on. Yeah. This
week our interests align, therefore I'm not going to try and kill you until some point later in the episode, and and you're just waiting for the moment that he betrays them. But like the moment that he betrayed them was during the point where they decided to change the timeline, and he was like, nope. Can't let my daughter die, so therefore I'm betraying you now.
The other bit was when he was pretending to torture Nate as well. Scream louder, right? And then next is sort of just they're having a little discussion like, right, you need to scream now because they're going to think that I'm not doing anything. That was brilliant.
Yeah, it was really funny. So next season, the season ends with them on the beach enjoying some downtime. They finally get to Aruba as a team. Although Mick meant him, not everyone else. And John Constantine shows up with the head of a dragon in his bag, because of course he does. John Constantine and Gary show up with the head of a dragon in a bag. And Constantine's like, nice try, guys. Well done. Thanks for letting all these demons out. Guess I'm going to have to come with you to clean this up, and it might take around about a single season to do so. I think moving into a more supernaturally themed area is interesting, because now they're time-travelling superheroes who fight demons. All right, why not?
Yeah, well, Legends, you're like, okay, sure. I'm not going to judge it. I think this season has been so strong that I'm like, okay, I'll give you the next one. It's like I'll look forward to seeing what they do with it.
You've built up so much good faith.
Yeah, they've sort of won me over with things that I was like, oh, well, that won't work, and everything's been like, okay, I'll go with that. And because they do it with such a not taking themselves seriously angle, that you can go, okay, well, because you're not taking it seriously, I can not take it seriously and I can just enjoy this, if it's visually funny, if you're doing good gags around it, if you're having fun with it, then I start to have fun with it. So yeah, why not?
Yeah, and the thing about so what they've done with John Constantine is, like, in Arrow they were kind of cagey about whether it was the same guy you saw on his own show. I mean, it was the same guy, obviously. It was played by the same actor and he acted the same. But in terms of continuity, in terms of plot, is he the same guy? So this show confirms that it is, because they talk about the event that started him off, when he accidentally gave a little girl's soul to a demon. He didn't mean to do it; he just did it by accident. It haunts him forever, and that's kind of why he does what he does. And you see, that's where Malice taunts him with that voice. That makes him stop, because he's like, "Holy crap!" But that little girl, Lisa, I think her name is. That might be wrong, but it's a little girl anyway. The kind of loss of innocence and all that, and that's why he's so committed to saving Nora in the beginning as well, because he doesn't want to do that all again. The reason I'm talking about them recanonising his story is during that season of Constantine, he was dealing with a problem called the Rising Darkness, which means that essentially it sets the premise of the show where all hell is breaking loose. Demons are attacking more blatantly than they ever have before, and John Constantine is working harder than he ever has, because for some reason the demons are so brazen. The demons and ghosts and whatever else are more brazen about just attacking people, about haunting things and whatever. So I'm wondering if they're going to try and say that this is the cause of that.
Oh, that'd be quite neat by the sounds of it. I mean, like I say, I've not watched enough to know, so if they tied it in that way, yeah, that would be very smart.
There's no reason not to, because it's fine. It's just one of those things that, if you happen to mention that, oh, so this is where this came from. If John is talking about the fact that he's actually dealing with the start of that thing that he was dealing with, and it's all weird because time travel's weird, and it could just be part of the background. I mean, the whole thing about John Constantine's first season happens because of you guys doesn't mean anything in a broader narrative sense, but it could just be a little fun aside that they play with. But yeah, can't wait to see him on the Wave Rider. Looking forward to Wally finding his place within the team, seeing what they do with Zari, seeing how they get Amaya back, hopefully getting rid of Nate, other stuff. That's what I want for next season.
Yeah, it wasn't erasing your memory that got rid of Nate. It was the ton of concrete or the piano that was swinging above him that took Nate out.
Well, if I was on the team, I would kill him and then erase everyone's memory.
Oh, poor Nate. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. They've surprised me so far, so yeah.
Apparently they're going to reveal what Amaya's deal is during Comic-Con, because they can't just keep going to the I have to go back well of storytelling, 'cause it's boring. It's the same as we should stop keeping secrets from one another in The Flash until the next week.
Yeah, but see, a lot of programs have that, and the Arrowverse is no different, where sort of common themes come up again and again and again and again, and they seem to get stuck into this repetitive rut where they don't learn lessons.
This show doesn't.
No, this show doesn't, but others do struggle with that. So hopefully they don't fall into that trap. Like we say, Damien Dark, absolutely brilliant. He's been excellent. Rest him. Otherwise, you're relying too heavily on that being there all the time.
Yeah.
Amaya change the story up a little bit, and yeah, just lots of nice surprises, and bring back Bebo, of course.
More Bebo. Yeah, they should
more
release
Bebo
as a piece of merchandising.
Oh, surely there is someone there now from the marketing department making sure there are distributed Bebos all over the place.
Yes.
If not, someone will be doing hooky Bebo on eBay.
There'll be a pop vinyl. I'll buy it because I think it's funny. Or they bring out the whole Bebo toy and I'll buy it because I think it's funny. Why not? Yeah. Why not? We haven't really talked about the cameos that were in the finale, but there's not much to say about them. Jax was there. He's got a daughter now. Cool. Whatever. Doesn't matter.
It's nice. I mean, if that was them closing the character for the season or for the series, then I think, yeah, that's a nice way to just go, right, he's doing all right for himself. It's 5 years on in his timeline. So, yeah, it's a nice way just to sort of sign off and go, the character's doing all right.
Helen of Troy is Wonder Woman. The closest thing this universe will ever get to Wonder Woman anyway. It was alright. The better version of Kwasa we've already talked about. Yeah. I think we've covered it. I think we've covered the show, the second half of the third season.
I think so.
Yes. So on that note, I will send you off to Aruba. I'm not going because it's too hot. I'm going to stay here where it's cold enough. Dislikes. It's on my dislikes profile. Dislikes warm weather, going outside, and repetitive storytelling.
Well, I will see you next time, and before I go, all hail our one true god, Bebo.
Yes, all hail Bebo, the god of war. That was our discussion on the back half of Legends of Tomorrow Season 3. Thanks to YouTuber nstens1117 for the supplied music. As always, if you like what you heard, then please subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, or any major podcasting app, and join us on the next Kneel Before Pod.